Leicester Market, 1974. An old lady in a tartan headscarf haggles over a knobbly turnip with two cheeky chappies. But little does the veg-hunting gran know, one of these young lads will reach the pinnacle of his field, delighting hordes of drunken Brits and bedding hundreds of women in the process.
The king of San Antonio Bay, the walking Instagram story.
He doesn't need an introduction, does he? Mr. Ibiza himself.
And the other boy? Well, that was Gary Lineker.
Lineker is in the middle. Lineker!
From dogging down country lanes to breaking out of prison in a limo, this is the story of Gary and Wayne Lineker, naughty and nice. Welcome back to The Upshot for this fraternal special. My name is Jack. Zach is here.
Hello, Jack.
Hello. And we've got Ocean Beach Club seasonaire, JP Lockwood.
Hello, boys.
Hello. Welcome.
How we doing?
You're on a live feed from Ibiza.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm Ocean Beach.
You're here to celebrate. I'm going to use the National Treasure label, which...
Two national treasures.
I think there are very few people in the country who think both of them are national treasures. Most people are one or the other.
I don't know.
But I consider myself in the middle of that Venn diagram.
Yeah, I think I reckon both of them in their respective fields have reached the top. I'd agree, but Wayne more so for me.
It's obviously funny that they're brothers because they are quite different. Obviously, Gary was a top footballer with a reputation for being quite squeaky clean. There is some naughty stuff which we will get to in the story. But then Wayne's obviously like a very different. I saw someone describe him as like Mario and Wario. It's like an evil twin type scenario. Because they don't seem related, do they?
No, just like completely different. But I guess maybe that competitive instinct then sort of drove them to be top of both of their respected fields.
Yeah, we always call him Naughty Uncle Wayne.
Yeah, Naughty Uncle Wayne.
He definitely he has that vibe of the uncle who's a bit cheeky and
yeah.
I mean, I spent a lot of the other day just scrolling down his Instagram, which is like it's just endless pics of him with like girls in bikinis aged. He's 60, right? He's 60 something.
62, I think now.
Yeah, and sort of I guess they're a third of his age, maybe half. It's he's Naughty Uncle Wayne, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is his time of year, isn't it? Gary's going to hibernate now. He's finished match of the day, and as you said, Zach, on another pod, Wayne's emerging from his fur-lined coffin.
Yeah, I think just during the winter months, I don't know what he's doing.
Dubai.
Really. Dubai maybe, but either that or was in some kind of like cryotherapy chamber, just like recovering,
loads of estrogen,
having like Botox and testosterone injected under his skin.
What an image! Right, should we kick off? Take us back to the early years.
So Gary Lineker was born in Leicester in 1960. He's actually got the same birthday as Winston Churchill, and as a result, his middle name is Winston. 2 years later, he is joined by his younger brother Wayne.
Oh, Wayne's younger.
2 years younger.
Oh, I thought he was older. Don't know why.
No.
Well,
no, younger. And we're looking at a picture of them now. Very angelic kids.
Wow. They really, I know this is a dumb thing to say, but they actually look like themselves now.
Yeah, they do a lot.
Sometimes you see a pic of a kid, they don't really resemble themselves.
We're looking at sort of black and white school photo, I guess. They're both in crisp white shirts with a tie. Wayne still looks a little bit like dead behind the eyes. Do you know what I mean? Even at that
He's
age.
actually got the same lid.
He's only
now,
about 5 years old.
It seems harsh to say that about a 6-year-old. Dead behind the eyes.
He's seen things, that boy.
You can see. You can tell that Gary's. You can tell that Wayne's seen a lot of sunrises, and Gary's looked after himself
Already by that age.
Yeah, well, you can see Gary's age better, I think.
We talk about when they're 6 in this.
Well, you can just see how they've aged.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So the brothers, they come from a long line of greengrocers. So their dad, their granddad, and their great-granddad ran Lineker's fruit and veg stall in Leicester Market, and both of them worked there when they were growing up. They're both massive Leicester City fans as well. I had season tickets. Both play at this like training scheme that's run by the club. Apparently, Wayne was actually the more promising player when they were growing up, but wasn't a big fan of the coach's discipline, so didn't really stick to it, which comes as a massive surprise when you look at their later lives.
Yeah, kind of tells you a lot about what it takes.
Yeah. So Gary really throws himself into it. Scores 161 goals in one season for his youth team. And as they grow older, the brothers sort of begin to go on their separate paths. So when Gary leaves school, he joins up with the Leicester Academy and eventually graduates to the first team, makes his debut in 1979. Wayne, meanwhile, quits school when he's 14 and starts running the family veg stall. So he's working like 14-hour days, 6 days a week. We've actually got a clip.
Leicester's indoor market bustles on a January morning with the kind of atmosphere that's made it one of the most popular in the Midlands. Its speciality is fruit and vegetables, and that's where the Lineker family come into their own. Gary occasionally helps out, much to the amusement of customers and other stallholders. But unlike his younger brother Wayne, Gary is no market trader.
It's a bit too much like hard work, and at this time of year it's much too cold.
What about the atmosphere here? Do you like the market?
Yeah, it's a great atmosphere. I used to enjoy it when I was a kid, working the summer holidays and at Christmas time and what have you. It's a bit special, Leicester Market. I think it's supposed to be the biggest outdoor market in Europe, isn't it?
Is he much good at the store?
Well, I think he can be if he wants to be, but it's too early in the morning for him.
So this is when Gary's famous.
So Gary's playing for the Leicester first team now, and he goes back to visit the market, visit his brother Wayne, who's running the stall.
Who's got a sort of bouffant 80s haircut there.
Yeah.
It's quite charming.
He's definitely not picked up the Ibiza look yet.
But Gary maybe is a little bit more shy then, but you can see even then that he's just quite natural on the mic. Isn't he?
He's just so nice, isn't he?
Yeah.
Bit of a wet wipe.
A bit of a wet wipe.
I think now or there.
Both.
Yeah, I find him very reassuring. Obviously, a lot of people hate him now.
Yeah, he's a nice man.
Yeah.
And not too bad at football either. So he breaks into the Leicester team 1979, and they get promoted the following year. And that season in the top flight, he doesn't really play much. Plays like 9 games, and Leicester get relegated. But in 1982, he has his real breakout season. It's a belter. He finishes top scorer of Division 2. Leicester are promoted back to the top flight. And with that comes a bit of attention from the ladies.
Here we go.
Go on, Gary.
So one day, Gary's out for a drive with his girlfriend, Michelle, who goes on to be his wife. And they're clearly feeling a little bit randy because they decide to pull over in a country lane. And they're getting down to business on the back seat. Cars jigging all over the place, windows steam up, when suddenly there's a knock on the window and this voice calls out, "Gary, we know you're in there, lad." And he like winds the window down. It's some Leicester fan. Which, to be fair, the car was a little bit of a giveaway. So we're looking at a picture of his car here. It's a red Fiat Uno, and on the side is written, "Gary Lineker, LCFC, drives a Fiat."
What is that car sort of rocking like in Grand Theft Auto
I was
style?
thinking like Titanic, with a hand at the back. Just like
so he'd been given this car by like a local car dealership or something, and
that's not an obvious car to shag in. It looks quite tricky.
It's small.
I've never understood car sex anyway. It looks difficult.
That looks very small. Didn't this story come out when he was doing a meet and greet with like his son? And like one of the fans asked him about it, and he had to like clarify in front of his.
He's told it. He has told it a few times. But there was one. I can't remember if it was a meet and greet or podcast or something where he's on with his son. His son's just had to sit there through the story.
Are you railing your mum in that bit?
Citron.
Yeah.
Also, I love the idea of this. Whoever is out for their like Sunday walk and just going down a nice country lane in Leicestershire. So what you most exciting thing you expect to see is like a mangled fox corpse. Or
said you see
teenagers
Gary
pilfering the honesty box outside a local farm shop, and said it's Gary Lineker and his LCFC Fiat.
Yeah, he's hit the jackpot. I guess now you just take a video on your phone, which is why I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Simpler times.
Yeah, it was. So Gary does a few more years at Leicester. 1985, he's the top scorer in the first division, which earns him a big move to Everton. So Everton are the reigning league champions at that point, so it's a big move. His first game for Everton is away to Leicester, and at half-time he accidentally walks into the wrong changing room. But that season he's brilliant for Everton, scores 40 goals in 57 matches. Everton finish second in the league and lose the FA Cup final. Both of them, they lose out to Liverpool, which is gutting for them. And to make matters worse, after the FA Cup final, they have to share a plane back to Merseyside with Liverpool. So like the whole Liverpool team's at the back of the plane, like getting on the
Getting
beers,
on it,
celebrating, and the whole Everton squad's just at the front, just like sitting in silence, looking out the window, pretending they don't care. Which, you know, is bad enough, but it didn't stop there, because for some reason they decided that there should be this dual bus parade through the middle of Liverpool. So it was organised before the FA Cup final. You know, Liverpool had won the league. The two Merseyside clubs are in the FA Cup final, and they thought, you know, we need to celebrate this great season for both of the clubs. We'll do a joint bus parade, which would have been alright if Everton had won the FA Cup, both have a trophy. But as it happened, Liverpool end up leading this bus parade with their 2 trophies on the top deck. Their buses go through, streets are packed with their fans, and then this sad Everton bus is just trailing it with all the players on the top deck.
Did any Everton fans turn up, or was it just like...
I did see some photos. There were a few. Yeah,
Really?
obviously not that many.
Just trying to help out there. Just feeling sorry for
Yeah, the fans called it the loser cruiser.
That is mental. They made them do that.
Yeah, there was one player. It was Peter Reid. Refused to do it.
Yeah,
like,
I bet.
He was just like, absolutely not. And the manager was like, you have to do it. I'll fine you 2 weeks' wages. And he was just like, deal.
Fine.
Which, fair play.
Fuck you, fine.
That is mental.
Apparently the Everton bus also didn't have a toilet on it. So the players were just like, just having a few beers, and then would just need to like piss in cans. And eventually
on the bus.
Graham Sharp had enough of this, like pissing in cans, and was like, okay, I'm going to jump off, and goes and knocks on a door of a house to ask if he can use a toilet. And this woman lets him in, so he goes up to do a piss, and then this queue forms outside the door of all the Everton players. At which point her husband, who's a Liverpool fan, storms out of the living room and kicks him out.
As if the day couldn't get any worse.
Yeah.
Behind enemy lines.
Yeah, he said that was a low point at the day.
That is meant.
What an awful idea.
No, can you imagine?
I actually think a lot of Premier League fans would rather have on an open top bus parade, rather like having won it, would rather have their like hated rivals on the bus,
Yeah, definitely.
cheering them than their own players. It'd be more fun.
Yeah.
What a stupid idea.
I can't believe they actually follow it. Surely the players are just like, I'm not fucking parading through town
with your like hated rivals at the front, with both of the trophies that you missed out on to them.
just don't do an open top bus parade if you're not. But I think there used to be more, like Italia 90, they did an open top bus parade and they got to the semis.
Really?
Yeah. Through Luton.
Foreign.
They landed at Stansted. I think we talked about it on the Gaza
Oh, I
episode.
do remember that, yeah.
They did an open top bus parade through Luton. Obviously.
Just while we're here.
Got to do it somewhere, I guess. Anyway, that turns out to be his only season at Everton, because having banged in so many goals, he's caught the eye of some of Europe's biggest clubs. I mean, he's clearly one of the best strikers in the world at this point, particularly for his finishing. And Barcelona come knocking. So apparently the Everton chairman calls him into his office at the end of the season and says, look, we've agreed a fee with Barcelona. And Gary's a bit like, ooh, that's quite a big deal. Let me think about it. And it's the World Cup in 1986. It's the World Cup in Mexico that summer. So they're like, right, go to the World Cup and think about it. And as we know, Gary does very well at that World Cup. He gets the golden boot, 6 goals. I mean, England have a poor first game, and I think there's like a bit of concern after the first couple of games that maybe like Barcelona's interest might be cooling in him because he hasn't scored. And then he gets a hat-trick against Poland, gets 2 against Paraguay, and England are into the quarter-final against Argentina. I guess one of the most famous matches of all time, because this is the Hand of God game, where Maradona scores with the Hand of God, and then straight after that scores one of the greatest goals of all time.
Did Lineker score?
Yeah, Gary Lineker actually pulls one back for England in the
Yeah.
I think 80th minute. It's a quite a classic Lineker goal. I think it's like a header from 3 yards out. But Gary's always been very magnanimous about it. I think because of the second goal. I've never heard him complaining about it like Peter Shilton, who's never quite got over it. The character I always loved from this story is Steve Hodge, the England player who got Maradona's shirt.
Yes.
And he sold it 10 years ago for $9 million.
Probably more than he earned in his entire career.
Definitely. Possibly more than Maradona earned.
Yeah. All of his teammates mad at him at the end for getting Maradona's shirt.
Yeah, they're all like livid in the dressing room, and Steve Hodge just comes in wearing it.
All right, boys.
I also love that Terry Butcher, the England defender, had to go and do the drugs test, and Maradona was the player they called, obviously, for the drugs test. And he's just like sitting in the room with Maradona, who's like dancing with joy. He says Maradona came clean to him there and then. But
What about the hand of God?
yeah, Butcher says that he was like head or hand pointing, and Maradona was like
Hand.
hand and like shrugged like, oh.
Little shitbag.
Yeah, fair play though. He scored an amazing goal. So Gary, yeah, he's always a very positive about Maradona. And to be fair, they're like a little bit of a duo. He's sort of like the second fiddle to Maradona around this time. I mean, so Barcelona signed him. It's 2.8 million, which makes him the most expensive player in the world apart from Maradona.
Wow, I did not know that.
He comes second in the Ballon d'Or that year, 1986, to Maradona.
Do they make him do an open top bus parade?
And he marries that summer a woman called Michelle Cocaine.
Nice.
Anyway, he gets to Barca, and this is Barca's like English era, or I guess British. So Terry Venables is the manager, and they buy him and Mark Hughes. So Mark Hughes, it never really works for him from there. But Gary Lineker has a great first season, especially in his first ever Clasico, where he scores a hat-trick. And he's not the only Lineker becoming a Spanish hero, because at this point, Wayne decides to cash in on the Lineker name and launch a bar in Tenerife. It's the world-famous Lineker's Bar is what he calls it.
Not actually world famous. That was just the name.
Well, I guess Lineker is world famous.
And he piggybacked on the back of it.
Got quite nice. BBC did a very weird program, but you can just see some footage of what the bar was like in '92.
I used to work on the markets in Leicester, and I was working 14 hours a day, 6 days a week with my dad on the fruit and veg store. I thought, I've got to get out of here, you know. I was toying with the idea of moving abroad.
Lads having pints.
Eventually I came up with this idea about Gary. I mean, the more famous Gary got,
I mean, it's an English pub.
the more I thought, it might be a good
it's
idea.
not what you think of now.
I had a word with Gary, said it was fine.
So apparently he had a premonition at the veg stall about opening this bar, and apparently in the middle of like service he just like stopped in the middle of like serving this lady, and had just seen this building with like 3 portholes in it, and then like football memorabilia all over the walls. And when he sold everything and then moved to Tenerife, he was like 3 or 4 months in and he couldn't find the right location, and he rang his dad and said, "Oh, I'm coming home." His dad said, "Oh, I'm going to just stay out there, stick with it." And apparently the next day an estate agent rang him and said, "I've got 1 property left to show you." And as he drove up to the property, there was just these 3 portholes. And he was like, "I'll take it." And the guy was like, "Do you not want to have a look?" He was like, "I've seen this property before, I'll take it."
Wow. So does he claim that it was genuinely like a vision?
Like a vision.
Right.
Like some
divine intervention.
You're sort of hoping for more than like it's an English pub. If you're looking at the clip, it's I saw these 3 lads with their tops off, having some warm beer, scrapping.
Yeah.
But the interview I saw, it's these 3 lads interviewing him, and they are literally hanging on every word, like he's speaking like gospel to them. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, he's a bit of a king of that scene.
He is, yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't realise how sort of like humble the beginnings of it were. But I guess Tenerife in the late 80s is not quite the same as Ibiza now. There was also an interview with him in the Sunday People in 1999. Wayne said, "The girls are on holiday, and if you can't pull at Lineker's, you can't pull anywhere." And then he added, "There is no way I'd ever allow my daughter to set foot in these bars. No way."
Does he have kids at this point?
Yeah, I mean, he's got many kids. I've sort of struggled to work out who's a grandkid and who's a kid. But his closest son, who's called Dwayne, which I like, sort of Wayne. Original. Dwayne takes over at some point, as we'll see in the story. Wayne hits on quite dramatically hard times, and Dwayne takes over age 20 and is very involved.
Yeah,
he's got multiple others. I think he's got grandkids.
He said in one, he always was like a family business. He's like mafia the way he runs it. But he said during that period in Tenerife, he thinks, obviously this is Wayne Lineker chatting, but he thinks it's the busiest bar per square foot on planet Earth.
That sounds like something he's completely made up. Anyway, back in the late 80s, the fans pile into Lineker's world famous bar to watch England and Gary Lineker at Euro 88. The hopes were pretty high. You know, England had in the World Cup had, you know, sort of narrowly lost to Argentina, who won it. So everyone's hoping they can do some damage in the Euros. But it's not to be. They lose all 3 group games. Gary has a complete shocker. Anyway, he's back at Barcelona, where he does find glory because they win the Winners' Cup and the Copa del Rey. Never wins the league, But actually, until Gareth Bale, Gary Lineker was the top English scorer in La Liga. So he does well until club legend Johan Cruyff takes over as manager. And Lineker's not really his style of play. Cruyff's all about the total football and the skills. And you're only allowed 2 foreigners in your team in La Liga. Cruyff decides he wants Gary Lineker's spot for someone else.
Right.
And so he basically tries to force him out by playing him on the wing.
Yeah, and if you're a poacher,
hates.
you're not going to like that.
And he's not a winger.
Yeah.
But yeah, at this point he realises it's up. The game's up for me in Barcelona, and I probably want to go back to England, and instead opts for Tottenham, where the vibe is a lot more laid back because the manager's Terry Venables, who it's always quiet. It's a bit of a laugh when Terry's there.
Yeah.
I mean, great manager, tactically and as a manager. And of course, one of the key players in that squad is Paul Gascoigne. Which is this is the era where Gaz is like bringing ostriches to training and stuff. Him and Gary have quite a funny relationship. Gary calls him Golden Bollocks, and they're sort of they're mates. And of course, the pair of them head off to Italy for the World Cup. And England play out a pretty drab draw against the Republic of Ireland in the first match, but for Gary Lineker, it becomes an infamous moment because this is the game where he shits himself on the pitch. We're now watching a clip. So he goes down.
Lineker a shove because England get a free kick.
Seems strange that he picks players with flair, and then all of a sudden we've got things like Waddle hitting long balls.
My dog does that.
Yeah, it's a dog.
As he did when I think he should have had a penalty, taking men on in the top half of the field. And Barnes doing that.
He's doing quite a good job of hiding it.
It's a good job they're wearing blue shorts, isn't it? Quite often England wear white shorts.
Number 10 on his back and a number 2 in his shorts.
So he kind of does it like a dog, doesn't he? Rubbing himself.
Yeah.
He said in his book, I fell to the ground and relaxed for a second and it just went boom. It was amazing how much space I found after that, though. I was stinking. He claims that because he gets subbed, and he claims that when he sat on the bench, no one would sit near him. The weird thing about this story is that, as he says in his book, it doesn't really come to light for 20 years. No one really notices at the time, like fans.
And does he admit it then?
No, I think he kind of keeps quiet about it. But then when the internet starts like spreading, YouTube basically, people start seeing the footage and it becomes a thing. So it was only in the 2010s, I think. Which is weird to think.
And has he come clean?
Yeah, he's fully admitting to it. I mean, you can't hide that. There's a bit where he's sort of scooping it out of his shorts. Also, there's a bit where you see him mouth to a teammate, "I've just shat myself." Which, that's the smoking gun. He has a good tournament otherwise. He scores 4, including the equaliser in the semi-final against Germany. But, of course, the match ends in heartbreak. Gaza cries over his suspension, and Chris Waddle and Stuart Pearce miss pens. Yeah,
He goes like that to the bench.
Yeah, have a word.
I've shat myself.
Again.
But again.
You've got any toilet paper.
But anyway, for Gary and Gaza, there is some redemption the following season when they win the FA Cup with Spurs. We talked about that in the Gaza episode where Gaza loses his mind in that match, doesn't he? Both of them are like instrumental in the semis where they beat Arsenal. I think Gaza scores a free kick. Lineker scores 2, I think. But in that final, Gaza very early on loses his mind, flies in 2-footed.
Is this the one where he breaks his leg?
Yeah, maybe he doesn't even get booked. He should have been sent off, but in the process he breaks his leg and goes to hospital and watches the rest of the final from his hospital bed.
Yeah.
Gary actually misses a penalty in that final as well. It's saved. But Spurs lift the trophy, which is Gary Lineker's first and possibly only English trophy.
Yeah, I think it might be.
Did he not win
he won
any leagues?
First division, the second division with Leicester potentially, if you're counting that. But yeah, so he does a couple of years at Spurs. His final season there, he's the second top goal scorer in the league, but Spurs finished 15th. Bit of a disappointing season, and by that point, Gary's already announced that he's going to leave that summer, which is of course Euro '92. It's in Sweden this time. And as the tournament approaches, Gary is 1 goal off Bobby Charlton's all-time record for England. He's on 48 goals. So everyone's sort of counting down to the moment when he'll equal the record. And they have this pre-tournament friendly against Brazil, and England get a penalty, and Gary steps up to take it. Everyone thinks this is the moment. And for some reason, he decides to go for a Pinnacle, and it doesn't go to plan.
Gary Lineker poised to equal the England goal-scoring record.
Pinnacle / pass.
Yeah, is that Pinnacle? It's side footed.
Well, if you they'll actually show the replay again, but you can see they show in slow motion. You can see he tries to sort of clip
dink
it.
Yeah, he doesn't commit to it properly.
It's a great kit.
It's a terrible penalty.
To be fair, that would be quite a cool way to get the all-time goal record.
It would have been good, but unfortunately, it doesn't happen. And they go off to Sweden. It's another shit tournament for England. They get knocked out in the group stage, and Gary never breaks the record. So he's actually subbed off in their final group game, and the England fans are a bit pissed off about that. Like, everyone wanted to see him break the record.
Try and give him a chance.
But that's his final game. He never breaks it.
This is the sort of Graham Taylor era, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't there a headline, England lose to Sweden, and the headline is Swedes 2, turnips 1?
Hasn't Graham Taylor got like a turnip on his head as well?
Yeah,
like,
they do. They make him into a turnip, don't they? Turnip is the funniest vegetable.
Yeah. Journalism back then.
Yeah.
The good old days.
Good old
days.
So Blackburn tried to sign Gary that summer, but he instead decides to head to Japan and joins Nagoya Grampus 8.
What a team name.
It's great. They were only formed a year earlier, and pretty quickly he starts picking up some Japanese. It helps that a lot of the football terms are quite similar. So offside is offusaido. Good save is nicer keeper. Yeah, genuinely. And good shot is nicer shotter.
Is that still true then?
I actually don't know.
Am I going to
so.
go to
Well,
Japan and
presuming
say
the
that?
fucking language hasn't changed. The language is the language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, I mean, they I guess picked up their football terminology from English.
Yes.
I like it. Before his first game, there's a big earthquake. So he's in the team hotel and everything just starts shaking. Game still goes ahead though, and there's another earthquake on the pitch because they lose 5-0. A 40-year-old Zico, the Brazil legend, scores a hat-trick
Oh wow!
for their opponents.
So that's the sort of player they had.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah.
It's like the MLS.
Yeah, kind of. But yeah, just like a few of these players.
Nicer Shotto,
Zico. But yeah, Gary has a great time in Japan generally. Unfortunately, he hardly plays because of injuries. He plays 18 games in 2 years.
Right.
But really enjoys the culture. Like, his family love it. And yeah, it's disappointing for him that he doesn't play more. And he leaves in 1994, which is when Arsene Wenger takes over as Nagoya Grampus 8 manager. So after leaving Japan, Gary retires and moves back to the UK. There were some clubs that were interested in him. Middlesbrough wanted to sign him, but he'd been suffering a lot with injuries, and he said that he just knew that he couldn't play at that level anymore, so decided to hang up his boots.
80 England caps.
Yeah, we've got his stats up here. It's always good to know. 80 games for England, 48 goals.
That's really
from
good.
1984 to 92. That's amazing. And then overall career, 461 appearances, 238 goals. This is Wikipedia. They sometimes get it wrong, but roughly.
Goal every game.
Yeah.
So I can't be asked to look up the exact numbers, but
very solid career for a striker, stats wise.
But retirement in a way is the beginning of Gary Lineker, at least for our generation.
Yeah, so 1994 he takes on one of the roles that we know him best for. He becomes the face of Walker's Crisps. It actually could have been very different though, because Gary had been being wooed for years by Golden Wonder, the rival crisp brand. There's a story from a few years back. They'd invited him in a bid to get him in. They'd invited him to their office to judge their Miss Golden Wonder competition. So basically each department in their office had put forward their hottest member of staff, female staff, and it was a beauty competition which Gary judged. Different times.
Feels very 90s, doesn't it?
He picked a rep from the personnel team, in case you're wondering.
What's that, HR?
HR, yes, yeah.
Protecting his interests.
I would have assumed marketing.
So aside from flogging crisps, Gary starts to become a bit of a media personality as well. So he starts out doing punditry on 5 Live, bit of presenting on Grandstand, and then in 1999 he gets the big gig when he takes over from Dirty Des Lynam as as host of Match of the Day.
Because he was a pundit on Match of the Day for a bit, wasn't he, Gary? And then he
I think so. Yeah.
What
yeah,
does Des shuffles off to bang his next door neighbour or whatever it is he did? If you don't know what we're talking about, I think we covered it on an extra shot.
Yeah.
We're going to do a sort of...
We're going to do a Des Lynam
the
episode,
naughty 90s, the seedy era of broadcasting.
Des Lynam deep dive.
But Gary takes over him from Des and very quickly becomes a much loved feature of British television. He does get into a bit of trouble in other places as well. So he does this column in the Daily Telegraph, and when Harry Kewell moves from Leeds to Liverpool, Lineker calls him naive in his column, basically because Harry Kewell's agent worked both for him and for Leeds, the club that was selling him. And Gary was like, look, you've got the same guy working on both ends of this deal. You're going to get fucked over.
Conflict of
Calls
interest.
Kewell naive. And Kewell doesn't take it well and sues Gary for libel. And Gary ends up spending 4 or 5 days in court giving evidence to a jury on this libel case, which I think Harry Kewell was a little bit thin-skinned there.
Yeah, a bit naive, you might say. Please don't sue us.
Yeah.
Of all the ways for us to get sued, calling Harry Kewell naive.
I was going to say, he's not really that bad, is it?
Really not that deep.
I'd call it fair comment.
Yeah. Unsurprisingly, it doesn't go anywhere. But when his brother Wayne ends up in the dock the following year, he's not so lucky. So it's 2006. Naughty Uncle Wayne is slapped with a 2.5-year jail term for tax fraud and money laundering. So just to give you an update on what he's been up to, he's still running his sports bars in Tenerife, and he's sort of expanded the empire across the Iberian Peninsula. And he's been caught smuggling suitcases stuffed with pesetas into the UK. So it's basically a tax dodging thing. So you had this tame employee at a branch of NatWest who take these suitcases of pesetas and change them into sterling. And over a few years, they'd smuggled in 220 grams in cash, dodged like 90k in tax.
Because you weren't allowed to bring cash into the country.
Yeah.
You're still not allowed to bring.
You have to declare it now because they
okay.
want to know where it's come from. But in like the late 80s and stuff, the maximum money you could take with you abroad was fucking tiny.
Yeah, a couple of grand or something.
Yeah, I think less. It was mental. Google currency controls if you're interested. Won't take us down that particular.
This is the Patreon episode today. We're talking about 80s customs.
I gotta say, Wayne Lineker clutching suitcases of pesetas, grubby pesetas.
Yeah,
that's the sort of image I want.
Yeah, it's not the image that the judge wants because he sends him to the slammer 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Which seems
he said in an interview that it was the longest jail sentence that they'd given anyone up to that date for dodging tax. For what he'd done, as in like he'd admitted it. He said it was 90 grand or whatever. He said it was the harshest jail sentence. It was
because he reckons they were making an example because of his brothers.
Yeah, and also he was sent to jail with his PA.
What do you mean?
As in his PA got done as well.
Oh, really?
So they went in together.
That's at least PA can keep working for him. That's kind of convenient actually for Wayne.
Sort my spice out.
Yeah. But why? I don't get why they'd want to make an example of Gary. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess
what benefit?
Liverpool fan.
I don't know. I guess it's going to be in the press.
Partly for that crisp thieving you did.
Yeah. So he gets sent to jail. It's a relatively low security one though in Kent, which Wayne does slightly abuse when he convinces the guards that he needs to go out to go to a hospital appointment. Turns out he's actually sneaking out to shag his girlfriend. So he told them that he was going to this appointment. He needs to get to the station. So they let him go out. He goes down to the station, and then his girlfriend turns up outside in a limo.
Subtle.
They drive off.
When he shags her in the limo.
Well, so a jail insider tells the press, "We don't know what Lineker got up to with his girlfriend in the car, but he hadn't seen her for months, so we can imagine what happened."
Yeah.
There were some reports that he was found in the limo with his trousers around his ankles and his girlfriend's blouse undone. So you can fill in the gaps.
Good of her to bring a limo.
Yeah.
Nice and subtle.
Yeah. I think they thought it would be fine because he'd leave the prison, go to the train station, she'd pick him up from there, but gets rumbled. And after that, he ends up getting sent to a high security prison. Was it worth it? Maybe.
Probably.
Yeah. On the outside, though, Gary's having a bit of a time of it as well. So things are not going very well with his wife, Michelle. Not helped by the time he signs her birthday card from Gary Lineker.
Or just like his autograph merch. Like, is that because he's so used to
He's on autopilot.
Yeah, that's his excuse.
Best wishes.
Yeah. Doesn't go down too well. And in 2006, they get divorced. So there'd been these rumours for years of him sort of playing the field. There was never any concrete evidence of it. But he is said to be a big flirt at the least. And after the divorce, the Daily Mail ran an article called Lineker the Lady Killer that pretty much reads like erotic fan fiction. I'll just read a bit out. On screen, he is Mr. Nice Guy, relaxed, friendly and affable. His unchallenging banter a soothing balm for the millions of viewers starting to drift off to sleep during Match of the Day. His wide, toothy smile is appealing, without the deadly charm of, say, Des Lynam, who sets the hearts of thousands of housewives racing. Or so we thought. Yet it is said by those who know him that Gary Lineker is a Jekyll and Hyde character, a man with two very different personalities. When the studio lights dim and Gary freshens up in his dressing room, a startling transformation takes place. He gazes coolly in the mirror, fiddles with his open neck shirt, the only clue on screen as to the ladies' man within, and nonchalantly undoes another button. Then he saunters out into the night and becomes the lady killer. The face of Walker's Crisp might be an unlikely Lothario, but he is devastatingly attractive to the opposite sex. He, in turn, is an outrageous flirt. His manner when he flirts with women is much more overt than his on-screen persona, says one who's seen him in action. He looks into a woman's eyes, tells them they're beautiful, even if they're not, and, hardly surprisingly, women love it.
It's like a Jilly Cooper novel or something. Mills and Boone.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a gym, but you said that with the erotic air in the room is high right now.
Just getting into character.
The hairs on the back of your neck standing up, JP. I think that's for horny housewives, isn't it? Reading the Daily Mail.
Yeah, I mean, or Match of the Day.
Yeah.
They've sort of not got any smoking gun, but they're sort of
just trying to get at something.
If anyone knows anything, obviously let us know.
Yeah. It's weird because there have always been these rumours, but nothing's ever really come out.
I think he's too much of a goody two shoes.
Well, I mean, he shags, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's not a crime.
So the story comes out around the time of his divorce that he's been sending what's described as steamy texts to the former BBC presenter Tara Stout. Reading back on the articles, it's very obvious that the newspapers had just hacked his phone. So this is a classic, like, a friend told us that Gary had sent these steamy texts to Tara saying blah, blah, blah.
What year are we in? Roughly?
This is 2006.
Right, yeah. It's prime phone hacking.
Yeah. It doesn't go anywhere with Tara, which is probably a lucky escape for Gary because she is trouble. So around the time that her and Gary are texting, she's awaiting a court appearance for indecent exposure. So she'd run naked through Soho in protest at her landlord, who's the porn baron Paul Raymond, charging raising her rent. And then the following year, she's jailed for stalking Simon Jordan, the Crystal Palace chairman,
and now
TalkSport host. So her and Simon had seen each other a few times, but hadn't really gone anywhere. And afterwards, she just starts harassing him. She's like bombarding him with hundreds of texts, calls. She posted him underwear, love letters. Apparently, she'd find out the hotels that he was staying at and leave poems and artworks there for him.
Scary.
She'd also read out whole books down the phone just to fill up his voicemail.
Whole books.
Can you imagine?
So no one else can leave him
a message.
Oh wow.
She also uploaded his details to a transvestite dating site.
I feel like this is the sort of treatment you're going to get from the JP when we really get.
Do you know what trauma I'm going through already?
Voicemail's clogged up.
So yeah, Simon reports her to the police, and it goes to court, where she strips outside the court to reveal a Union Jack bikini, and then goes inside and is given a restraining order.
Feel like stripping is their thing in protest.
Yeah.
She was a BBC presenter.
She was a BBC presenter.
On what sort of thing? Sort of Top of the Pops type stuff.
I don't actually know. Yeah.
Can't imagine it being very highbrow.
Presumably, she lost her BBC gig.
Yeah.
After all this.
Yeah.
Shame.
And yeah, so she, after being given this restraining order, she's out sort of on bail. Like if she breaches it, she'll go to jail, and she ends up fleeing to Marbella, which is not allowed. But when she's there, she gets sectioned actually, and then sent back to the UK, where she's sent to jail.
When you said Marbella, I was thinking, is Wayne about to enter the story?
Sadly not. Yeah, but she gets sent to jail, and then when she's released, she unveils a range of prison-themed lingerie.
Oh yeah, we're looking at it now.
Yeah.
She looks like she's had the shoot outside court as well.
Why is that prison theme? Oh, because it's like a
So
truncheon.
there's a
sort of police
truncheon.
themed,
It's
really,
police
isn't it?
themed.
I would
isn't
call
it?
that a fancy dress. Sort of Amazon Smithies.
Yeah.
She looks a bit psycho, doesn't she?
Well, Gary's
Yes.
probably swerved.
Just dodged a bullet. I think.
dodged a bullet.
Gary, well done.
But you know, he's gone through his divorce, and Wayne's been doing porridge inside. So at times like this, you know, two brothers, they really need each other more than ever. But unfortunately, they are driven apart in the mid-noughties when Gary starts dating Danielle Bucks. I think that's how you say her name. So she's Gary's new girlfriend, and like it's clearly a very serious relationship. They fly out to Ibiza to meet Wayne, spend some time with him there. And apparently she takes an instant dislike to him. I don't know. Wayne sort of says like she was just really cold with me. She wouldn't leave her room while she was on the holiday. Sort of wonder if he did make it.
She wouldn't come for a woo-woo at Lineker's.
Reckon he might have made the odd off-colour remark. Anyway, they fall out over this. So Wayne doesn't go to their wedding the following year. They're basically not speaking. But to be fair, he's got enough on anyway, because in 2008, he has opened his first bar in Ibiza, which this really sort of becomes the making of him. So he opens Lineker's in 2008, and then he opens Ocean Beach Club in, I think, 2012. And this is where he becomes sort of the Wayne Lineker we know today. It's the jewel in his crown, because he goes from owning sort of football memorabilia themed English pubs to like a beach club where, you know, people will spend 900 quid on Grey Goose. We've got here a video from the Daily Express from when it opened in 2012. And there's a little interview with Wayne.
You've done so successfully with the Lineker's bars, with that name Lineker, and you've gone, I mean, it's everywhere from Tenerife to here, I was there last night. I mean, did you ever realise it was going to be that successful?
No, never in a million years, no. It was just an idea I had 25 years ago. His name was really famous. I just thought, I've got that name too, so let's use it.
And talking of Gary, does he frequent here at all, or at the bars?
No, it's a bit too party for Gary, but...
And what about the Olympics? I mean, are you all into, because you're very sporty and fit, are you getting into the vibe?
Not at all, no.
You're not watching your brother
I'm too busy
then?
in here, I've got no time at all.
Love a serious answer. Actually, speaking of the Olympics, do you remember the tweet he did during the Olympics? I've got it here. He tweeted, because Gary was obviously in the Olympic ceremony, he said, "My bro's doing the big Olympic ceremony and I'm wanking in Ibiza. Been on it all day and have lost my flip-flops. Where did it all go wrong, Gary?" 9 minutes to 11. Ocean Beach Club kind of ends up being the making of Wayne, because it's a whole new category of hotspot. You know, it's Love Island-y. It's got people from Towie coming. And also this is when Instagram's getting big, and I think that really fuels it.
I mean, to be fair to him, he kind of like spotted a gap in the market. Like there was nothing in Ibiza at the time that was like daytime and like, you know, sort of bougie. And
Why was it more like nightclubs
and and just like, you know, ecstasy and just, you know, lots
Serious
of late
music.
nights. And he was like, well, actually people are here on holiday and they want something to do in the day. San Antonio was so tourist driven back then, so I think like give him credit where credit's due. He was like, well, actually a day party could be great. And he piggybacked on Instagram, like you said. Like immediately he was getting Joey Essex out there and the Wheelstone Raider and shit. You know
all
what
the
I
big
mean?
names. Obviously, by doing this whole Instagram thing, Wayne himself becomes a celebrity. This is when he gets famous, really, for things other than smuggling dirty cash. And now he's like people go there seeing Wayne and getting a picture with him is quite a big part of it. So he said in an interview, he said, I compare it to Mickey Mouse at Disneyland when he comes out and everyone runs to get a picture. But I'm the Mickey Mouse of adult Disneyland. I literally have to plan my day around it because it's so intense. 500 to 600 pictures a day.
Wow.
We said that before. I can't believe it's that many selfies.
That's insane.
I love how he's like, yeah, I'm Mickey Mouse with a boner and big muscles.
But I mean, if he's walking around that gaff and there is, say, 2,000 people there and everyone knows him and he's like a godlike figure, most people are going to want a selfie.
Yeah.
So I actually think that number's not that far
Is he
off.
counting when there's like a crowd of people? And
like 40 and he gets someone to count him.
Sure.
He doesn't seem that arrogant to me. I'm sure some people would totally disagree, but he seems like...
No, he comes across well.
Like
I think.
he's kind of, he gives the people what they want. And he does use his powers for good because he becomes a sort of respected elder of the island in some ways. So around this time, there is a terrifying new drug taking over the island called cannibal, which I've got to say I've never heard of. Apparently it's bath salts, some nasty like Chinese research chemical. And apparently a guy comes to Ocean Beach Club and ends up needing 10 police to restrain him because he's trying to bite people on the neck, which is weirdly they call it cannibal, not vampire. But yeah, Wayne does a warning about cannibal. So he's sort of looking out for everyone. He does seem to be doing plenty of shagging as well. I mean, a trip down his Instagram will reveal, a procession of women in their 20s going out with him. And good luck to him. But it's not just sex and drinks that he's interested in, because in the mid-noughties, Wayne is working hard on his .com venture. So 2010, he announces plans to launch a social networking site to take on Facebook. And it's going to be called Wayne's World. And he describes it as Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, and YouTube in one. He says, why not bring all of that in one place, add a few spicy, nice, and sexy things to it? It's becoming a household name already. It's hard to exactly imagine what that is.
Is it a bit like, is it Weibo, the Chinese one that they use for everything?
Yeah, it's
they
exactly
basically ripped off
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me, have you ever watched the Ali G when he's talking? I think it's with Donald Trump, when Trump's like a businessman. And he's like pitching Trump joke businesses, and like one of the ones he pitches is a glove for when you're eating ice cream to stop it dripping on your hand. It kind of, I don't know why it reminds me of that. Anyway, he manages to attract a lot of big name investors, 100 of them, put in 900 grand. Among them, Danny Dyer, Titus Bramble, and Wayne's nephew, George Lineker, Gary's son. So they stump up 900 grand for 10% of the company, valuing it at 9 million.
That's quite a lot for a company back then.
Yes, a shitload. But I guess riding the Facebook wave.
Yeah, I suppose so. Wow.
And he's going to do all, Facebook, iTunes, all of it. It's hard to imagine exactly what that is.
Yeah.
Is there any clips of like what it looked like?
Well, it has a pretty rocky progression. And in 2012, he finally launches it. He's now rebranded it as shuffling.com. Possibly inspired by the Every Day I'm Shuffling song. So we're looking at the homepage. I mean, that could be anything.
Every day I'm shuffling.
Yeah, well, I think that song was basic. It actually says Every Day I'm Shuffling on the homepage. And what I have got is a clip from the launch party, which was held at Sugar Hut in Essex.
The tech hub at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Silicon Valley.
Hut. Here's Wayne being interviewed.
Every day I'm shuffling.
Sugar Hut Group.
Wayne, speechless.
That was amazing, wasn't it? For anybody that sees the YouTube video tomorrow, I've been saying all week, we are going to play Laugh My Ass Off at midnight. Everybody's shuffling all week.
Do you think Steve Jobs did the same thing at the Apple launch party?
Yeah, it's got a lot in common with the great Apple.
Yeah, I'd like it if Wayne had come out in a like Steve Jobs rolled egg.
To be fair, he's got quite a look himself though. He's got like a sort of wafer thin t-shirt that's bursting.
I mean, fair play to him.
What is that website that he's describing? It's very vague. I mean, I've done bullshit tech pitches in my time.
But what is sexy?
Yeah, why is it sexy?
You know, that homepage was not sexy.
You know when someone's trying to get you into a club on a strip in like a Spanish island, they're like, yeah, it's a really sexy vibe in there, and you're like, great. It's basically that patter. I think it was just like you have a profile, and yeah. You know, and he's like, in all honesty, we have got 10% more work to do. You're like, you've done fuck all.
I mean, I'm dying to actually see whether there's any screenshots on the internet.
Yeah, I tried to look on the Wayback Machine and there were none.
Maybe Wayne's got some knocking around.
I mean, it folds within months of launching.
Really? So
yeah.
all 900 went.
Yeah, he
kaput.
falls out with his business partner, who he claims is a compulsive liar.
Right.
They have a bit of a tussle, and yeah, everyone loses their cash.
Didn't make it sexy enough.
No, yeah, that was the problem. Not sexy enough. And meanwhile, Gary's having a tough time as well because he gets divorced again in 2016. So that's divorce number 2, I think. But there is some stuff to cheer him up. Firstly, he reconciles with Wayne, presumably because his wife, who fucking hates him, is out of the picture. And secondly, Leicester are mounting a big old title challenge. And as things are starting to go well for Leicester, and it looks like they could actually do it, he promises to present Match of the Day in his pants if they win the league. Which he does do, but
it's a bit of a shit.
They're shorts.
It's a complete cop-out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for his last episode of Match of the Day, he should
Can we get a photo?
Knob out.
Can we get a photo of it up?
They're like PE shorts.
They're like boxing shorts, aren't they?
Why couldn't he just wear pants?
Yeah, that's fucking bollocks.
He's topless, sure.
I mean, his rig's looking great, but he's not like... They're not pants, are they?
I'm not saying he needed like open fly boxers.
He also only did it. He only did it for the first 5 minutes or something, and then changed out of them.
Come on, Gary.
Yeah, I feel like he's gone 90% of the way there. Maybe he hadn't manscaped.
Yeah.
He used code upshot 20. No, just code upshot, sorry. Yeah, disappointing. Anyway, there is a far more embarrassing image on his hands later that year when Walkers, they do this like PR campaign where they ask fans to send in selfies, and then it like automatically generates a video of Gary Lineker holding up their photo. But unfortunately, everyone just uploads pictures of well-known murderers and paedophiles such as Joseph Fritzl. So
Does this get like published on Twitter?
So they automatically get tweeted. You tweet them the picture, so it's just it's a video of Gary Lineker holding up an image of Joseph Fritzl. Disaster. Yeah.
So take you forward to 2020, and the world is going into COVID lockdown. But when he's with his bar closed down, the world shut down, nobody buying jugs of mojitos from his Ocean Beach spot, Wayne can turn to other priorities, such as finding a new girlfriend. So that year, he posts an advert on Instagram looking for a new girlfriend. I'll just read out some of the highlights from it. You must like older men, but only me. You have to be a worldie and above 30. Okay, 20, 28, 29 could work, but not my age, as that would just look weird. You must be able to cook, as I love cooking, especially Waitrose ready-made meals. House music and R&B lovers only. You will need a driving license to share a Bentley and a Lamborghini and Jeep, which is a bit
I see what he's done there.
Brag, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure he had too many applications though, because the following year he goes on Celebs Go Dating, where he reveals that he's never dated a woman over 30.
How old
He's
is he?
60 at this point.
Right. It's like Leonardo DiCaprio, isn't it? Isn't his limit 25?
I think Leo's a bit cooler than Wayne, though.
Depends.
Yeah,
Depends where you're from.
What circles you move in. So what was rules? You have to be a worldie.
You have to be a worldie, obviously.
I quite enjoyed the age thing. All right, 28, 29. How low does that number actually go?
He dated. He claims that he's dated. She's never confirmed it. Ekin Su. She was on Love Island, and Wayne says that they got together after he airdropped her his number in Nando's.
Nice.
Does that work?
Apparently so, according to him.
Tech entrepreneur.
Weird. I was poking her for ages on shuffling.com and just getting nothing back.
Yeah. I don't know. That's the kind of thing that would go down well in
For
Ibiza, I think. And hooking up with younger girls as well. That's sort of accepted, tolerated, normal.
No laws
in
are
his
being
circles.
broken.
In his circles in Ibiza,
He said that like when he was asked like why do you date younger women, he's like, well, I roughly see 1,000 worldies a day. So it's like ingrained in my brain.
I thought he'd be like, I'm desensitized.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you date. You're going to meet people
in his line
hook
of
up
work.
with people who you encounter in your day-to-day life, and if you decide to open a bar and cater it to drunk 25-year-old girls, then this is what will happen.
Yeah.
It does slightly come back to haunt Wayne though when he makes an appearance at Crouch Fest, the live show of Peter Crouch's podcast. So he comes on as a guest, and this is how the audience welcome him.
Just want to have a little chat. So, obviously, we talked about you there. The lads go from Pep Guardiola, they go from Jurgen Klopp, and then they go to O Beach in the summer.
Basically, every time Wayne opens his mouth, 12,000 people start chanting pedo.
He didn't take it well, did he?
No. He basically couldn't get a word out because he got drowned out.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
He posted after being like, "This is so disrespectful."
Yeah.
I mean, no one likes being called a pedo by 12,000 people. And I think it's harsh. I mean, it's definitely harsh. He's not a pedo.
But while Wayne is as horny as ever, it kind of seems like Gary's going the other direction. So he did an interview a few years ago where he said that he's been on a few dates since becoming single again, but that he's not that fussed about intimacy anymore. To which Wayne responds, "Come on, bro. Really had enough of you damaging the family reputation."
Does he mean by intimacy? Does he mean sex, or does he mean like kissing you during sex? Do you know what I mean? Like buying you presents and ever speaking to you ever again. Do you know what I mean?
Emotional intimacy.
Yeah. Personally, I read it that way.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah,
which I'm sure Wayne can get on board with that side.
Yeah. It's a very sort of clinical experience.
Yeah. I think it's like, I think you should go now.
Keep your face mask on. To be fair though, Wayne does have a brand to protect because business is absolutely flying in Ibiza for him by now. His bar's packed every day of summer with Premier League footballers and generally hairless British lads. And he's Ibiza royalty now. So when the Queen dies in 2022, he decides to pay tribute from one distinguished family to another. So this is the scene from Ocean Beach on the day the Queen died.
I remember this.
We'll link to it.
Yeah.
So do you want to just describe what we're looking at here?
So there's a procession of scantily clad women in beefeater hats who march towards the stage where they stand to attention and the crowd sings "God Save the Queen" while an inflatable London bus soars overhead. It's one of the strangest tributes I've seen.
It's what she would have wanted.
Yeah.
I quite like how they're like really focusing on sort of marching in time, the beefeater women in their underwear, but still the music is just like intense beat.
The other thing I wonder is, where did they get those beefeater bikinis at short notice?
Yeah, quickly.
They were prepping for it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I love how they didn't have time to celebrate the Olympics, but the Queen dying is like a procession.
It's more fun than the stuff we had here.
True.
I would say, which was not fun.
Yeah. It was at least they. Yeah. This is the kind of thing the Queen would get on board with, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
She'd have, in her day, she'd have been down Ocean Beach
in a sexy
every
beefeater
day.
outfit.
So but Wayne's, he's basically just like an Insta celeb now. He's always popping up. One of my favourite videos of his was a few years ago when he did one listing the 10 things I can't live without.
The tracksuit does it for me.
Yeah, so I'll read them out as we go through. Ibiza, parties, cream eggs, spelt wrong, music, HP sauce, Nando's, vinegar, worldies, Instagram, testosterone injections.
Testosterone injection. Fair play.
Yeah.
Did he have worldies twice, or did I imagine?
No, worldies was once. He gets early on at the top. It was like you get your cream eggs, your HP sauce,
Your
vinegar out of the way, and then finishes up with the big three of worldies, Instagram, and testosterone injections.
He does look like he has testosterone injections.
Oh yeah, big
I
time.
know the way, because that's the final one. You're thinking maybe the last one is going to be family and friends, maybe. But testosterone injections.
No Gary in there.
I suppose in a way, Lineker's bar is one big family.
Kinda.
Yeah, it's good. Testosterone injections, though, that's weird.
They're all the rage.
As he gets
that's how you keep your libido up, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
As he gets older, it looks like his face is like filling out more. He just looks like bigger.
He's doing a lot of all the weird Botoxy shit. Isn't he? He's got turkey teeth.
Yeah. His voice sounds like his.
Because there's a bit where he looks a bit like Gary briefly.
Yeah,
and
now
then now he's just like looks like a grind set influencer online.
Yeah. He's very strange looking now.
He looks like one of the lads at Ocean Beach.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Like an older version.
Radicalised by his audience.
Yeah.
So while Wayne is becoming this much loved figure on social media, Gary sees the other side of it when he gets into this big spat with the BBC over his tweets that are sort of criticising the government. So we'll remember he was saying that the language they use about immigration policy is like Germany in the 1930s, and he gets suspended. But the other presenters back him. It's a whole big furore over it. There was one comedy moment though when Self-Esteem go on stage to a gig wearing free Gary t-shirts in support of him, and the following day pictures of this are all over the press, just in time for the story to break that Gary Glitter has been returned to prison for violating the terms of his parole.
Free him.
Yeah, so these free Gary t-shirts didn't age particularly well.
Unfortunate timing that, isn't it?
Yeah, it was really. Obviously, Gary did return to Match of the Day, and this weekend it's his final appearance. He's stepping down, which, you know, I think it is to do with his desire to like express his political opinions. This sort of spat with the BBC, I guess, is related to it.
He started his own poddy, hasn't he?
Yeah, also it has just a bit run. He's done it for a
long
long time.
Yeah. I would definitely have one presenter taken on though. Like, you know, I know we're going back to
Des Lynham available.
Get Wayne on. Get Wayne Lineker.
It's annoying that Gary doesn't like acknowledge Wayne publicly that much. You know what I mean? Like
they should do the final episode of Match of the Day together.
Yeah,
I'd love that.
Great. Like I've
from Ocean Beach.
Yeah,
I've seen him do the odd thing, like when Wayne was on The Only Way Is Essex. He was like, "There's a bloke on it who looks just like Wayne Lineker, but surely he wouldn't be that stupid." He tweeted, but like you know what I mean? He doesn't. And Wayne says they don't really speak at the moment.
Really?
No.
Yeah, the last I checked.
He's doing all right for himself though, Wayne.
Yeah,
he was on the cover of Loaded magazine in April. We're looking at
See
that.
what I mean about him? Really,
he looks
time
like a sort of humanoid robot.
Yeah,
time waits
He's
for
still
no
got
one.
that. You know, we were saying at the very start that picture of them as kids, and he looks quite dead behind the eyes. He's still got that now.
I think he looks like, you know how they're trying to bring extinct species back, like mammoths. He looks like they brought sort of like
Lineker back from the dead.
Neanderthal-y. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's maybe harsh.
But he did go a little bit quiet after he had that incident with the punter at Ocean Beach, didn't he?
Oh, he got knocked out.
He got knocked out, yeah. And it was all a bit weird why it happened, but then it came out that he was protecting someone that was being harassed.
Oh, I thought the bloke
and
just
got knocked
called him
out.
a pedo or something.
Yeah. But
It's
again,
pretty
like,
nasty, I
it was
felt.
like he's like 65 years old. Like, don't go
Yeah,
around doing that shit.
Don't do it to anyone.
Also, one of the mates came down afterwards and like did the wrestling thing as if like, you know, like 1, 2, 3.
Oh, really? It's like, mate, you just knocked a bloke out.
Going
I didn't know
60s.
Loaded was back or
back, I
never
think,
left. It definitely used to have naked women on the front and not Wayne Lineker.
Slightly different vibe. It's
I reckon they're not going to
2025.
sell quite as many copies this time out.
Yeah, that sort of brings us up to date, really.
Yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to mention, which is we talked about like some people don't like Gary Lineker. I'm sure some of them are listening, and among them are Matt Letizia and Joey Barton, who have sort of alluded to skeletons in Gary's closet without explaining. I've got a clip here.
We'll probably find out all these things after Gary passes away.
You think there's some skeletons in the closet?
Oh my God.
Gary? What skeletons are in the closet?
Oh, I can tell you Gary Lineker is not the angel that he likes to portray himself to be.
What's he been up to?
Ask Joey Barton. Have a look at Joey Barton's feed where he has a go at Gary Lineker and challenges Gary to come back and have a go at him. And Gary won't have a go at him because Gary knows he's not as pure as driven snow.
I mean, this is a man who thinks that the government controls the weather.
Yeah.
So take what he says with a
That's
pinch
not
of
cool
salt.
that source. Also, Matt Letizia, it's never him saying it. It was like, oh, go and listen to what he's saying. Do you know what I mean? Just
He doesn't actually know.
no, he doesn't know
anything.
shit. Yeah, I don't know. If anyone does have any funny stories we haven't mentioned, obviously send them in. But
Yeah.
If Matt Letizia is listening.
I think it's the government of lizards.
Yeah, that's where they're at. I guess my question for you guys is, who's your favourite Lineker?
Good question.
I mean, for me, it's slam dunk Wayne. I'm going to be honest.
I mean, I think that they're a great. They're sort of a yin and yang to each other.
Yeah,
aren't
I'd agree.
They balance each other out perfectly. One wouldn't be the same without the other.
If I had to pick, I'd go Wayne.
I'll go for Gary just because that makes me seem like a little nerd.
Yeah,
just for balance, I'll go for Gary.
Yeah, which again is quite nerdy to want balance. Yeah, I guess we really hope happens next is Gary popping up. I saw Wayne do quite a sad tweet being like, all I want for my 60th birthday is my brother down at my bar, but
that's sad.
Wasn't to be. So hopefully that can happen.
I hope they do patch it up. Maybe they'll start a veg stall together.
That would be sweet.
That would be sweet.
All right, well, for now, we will bid them farewell. We'll see Gary on whatever he does next. We'll see Wayne in a few weeks when we're out there.
Ocean Beach opening, lads.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, do you know what? We actually forgot to mention that Insta post that Wayne did with Tyrone Mings after the Euros, and he captioned it, "Wash your fingers for the Mingers." Just thought I'd mention that before we go. And on that bombshell, JP, Zach, thanks a lot.
Cheers. Thanks, lads.
And thank you for listening.